Welcome to MTN Outdoors.
Hey there, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of MTN Outdoors. I'm once again your guide, Andy Curtis, and we're here at Spring Meadow Lake State Park, just outside of Helena, because today's episode is all about being on the water. For example, how being on the water is helping our fighting men and women heal as they return home after their time overseas. We'll also see how a whole lot of water that we've gotten here across the state in the form of rain over the past couple of months is now causing some unexpected headaches for boaters around the Yellowtail Dam. But first, we'll dive in feet first with MTN's Jackie Coffin on the Stillwater River to see how much difference a year makes for this rafting family.
There are sections of the Stillwater River where you can see the evidence of the flooding. Trees torn up, channels of the river have changed completely, but you can still find a lot of fun rafting down. If you've driven up the Stillwater River corridor near Absaroka, you probably recognize this big red barn. And if you've stopped in to take a float with Adventure Whitewater, you'll know Merrick Rosin.
I want everybody to point downstream for me.
My business is Adventure Whitewater.
Never trust your guide.
It's 30 years of celebrating this summer. Probably one of the most amazing jobs you could ever have, ever.
When I first met Merrick, it was under different circumstances.
They actually are evacuating everybody out.
In 2022, when historic flooding hit his barn and his business.
Floods were devastating to my business, but we bounced back.
Merrick started floats again last summer after floodwaters receded, but this summer he's on a mission to show the Stillwater is back and as fun as ever.
All right, Grayson, you ready?
Guiding boats down the river twice a day is Merrick's daughter, Chloe Rosin.
Every day out here on the water, you always feel good. You're hard pressed to have a bad day on the water, and I think that's just what makes it so special.
Chloe points out fan favorite features.
Let's go!
But also where the river has changed from the floods.
This channel is pretty new since the floods. We used to go river left, and we're currently going river right.
Boats full of visitors are making up trips to Montana canceled last year.
We are from Bismarck, North Dakota, and we are just on a girls' truck.
Keeping guides busy.
Had a lot of folks from Kentucky, North Carolina, is where I grew up rafting, and a lot of the Minnesotas and Dakotas.
With Chloe bringing her own expertise to the water, Merrick's vision of the river is changing.
Adventure Whitewater will stay open. It's time for me to ship my oars and time for the new generation to keep their oars wet.
But he knows the Stillwater River, as scarred as it might be, has an untouchable magic that cannot be washed away.
Who knows what the future holds, but right now we are 100% going for it.
Near Absaroka, Jackie Coffin, MTN News.
All right, next we head up to the northwest corner of our state to see how, for the first time in a long time, these boats are getting back on these two Glacier National Park lakes. But there are a few conditions. MTN's Coulter Anstad takes us there.
Well, in case you can't tell, it is very windy on this particular day here on the east side of Glacier National Park. That may be deterring some people from getting their boats and recreating out on St. Mary Lake, but nonetheless, the AIS inspection station here at the St. Mary Visitor Center is open after being closed since 2019. This is part of a new agreement between the park and the Blackfeet tribe.
As soon as they get through the gate, they're directed here.
When you enter Glacier National Park through the entrance near St. Mary Visitors Center, you can't miss the Aquatic Invasive Species Inspection Station on the right side of the road.
They'll pull up.
Anyone bringing in a boat through the entrance has to stop there and answer some questions from inspectors. Blackfeet AIS Coordinator Danielle Trombley says kayaks are the most common type of boat people bring in.
They'll ask them if they're camping. They have to present their day passes that they get through or buy online. Come up. If the kayak or anything's dirty, they have the water supply here, which they will go and spray it down.
If you're bringing in a motorized boat, it has to be cleared by inspectors and then not be used for 30 days before it can be used in the park. Trombley is glad to be able to bring boating back, but still worries about zebra and quagga mussels, which are partly the reason boating was discontinued on the two lakes in 2019 and why motorized boating hasn't been allowed on St. Mary Lake since 2016. COVID and a lack of staff are also reasons boating is just now coming back.
The zebra and quagga mussels moving this way, they're in the Dakotas, and then just the danger of it. I mean, we love our waters, you know, what makes the reservation, Glacier Park, beautiful.
According to the U.S. Geological Survey, zebra mussels cause multiple problems, including filtering out algae native species need for food. Quagga mussels have a similar impact and also store organic pollutants that are eventually released, potentially exposing wildlife to the pollutants.
These types of stations are set up so that none of those invasive species are able to catch a ride on any type of watercraft.
Park Public Information Officer Jenna Eisnagel says the park is excited to help bring boating back.
This is a perfect example where we can partner with the tribe to be able to help protect the resources in Glacier National Park and look to the tribe for their expertise for their stewardship as well.
She also points out that because the park is the headwaters of 3 watersheds that flow into the Atlantic and Pacific Ocean and the Hudson Bay, an invasive species in the park's waters could infect the entire continent.
For more information about these AIS inspection stations or about boating in the park, check out this story on our website. In Glacier National Park, Colter Ranstadt, MTN News.
And boats around the Yellowtail Dam are having a tough time getting in and out of the water right now because of an invasive species of an entirely different type. MTN's Charlie Kleps has our story.
Rivers like the Yellowstone behind me are seeing massive debris float downstream still, even though we're almost into August. It's part of the lasting impacts of massive rainfall, and at Bighorn Canyon it's a similar problem, so much so that boaters are having trouble getting in and out of the water.
I have never in my life.
This is what it looked like for the Fuller family when they tried docking their boat at Yellowtail Dam last weekend.
But it was unreal, honestly, it was crazy.
For longtime boater Angela Fuller, it was something she'd never seen before.
I mean, there's always wood when we go to Yellowtail. There's always some element of driftwood, but I've never seen it completely blocking one side of the boat dock, let alone the entire boat loading dock. So it felt just otherworldly.
Fuller says it made getting in and out of the water a major challenge.
That was wild. There were like literal tree logs that were up underneath our boat, and so my husband had to hop in the water and was pulling out trees from underneath our boat.
What that really comes down to is the increased rain that we had this June.
Yellowtail Dam Division Manager Christopher Curtis says the massive rainfall in June gave them no choice but to hold the water, bringing the water level up higher than in years past.
This year was very unique. We had a lot of water coming in, and we have to hold that because it would just do a massive amount of damage downriver.
By this time in the summer, the driftwood issue is kind of over.
Superintendent of Bighorn Canyon Recreation Area, James Hill, says part of the delay is due to an equipment shortage.
We had some issues with some equipment shortages in the dump truck and the dump trailer realm, but essentially we've been doing the same thing that we've always done.
But the good news is progress is being made, and Hill believes the end of summer will bring people like the Fullers the beautiful clear water they're used to.
As we move here into August, as long as the weather holds and we don't see a lot of torrential downpours, I think we're going to be okay.
In Bighorn County, Charlie Kleps, MTN News.
And that brings us to our MTN Outdoors trivia question today, and it's a good one, a real damn good one. So here we go, and this one's for you history buffs. When was the Yellowtail Dam dedicated? Was it A, 1950, B, 1968, or C, 1955? So I will admit this one might be a little harder of a question than last week, but really think about how satisfying it will be to know the answer, and we'll have it for you after this.
We now return to MTN Outdoors.
Hey, welcome back everybody to this week's episode of MTN Outdoors. Thanks for spending some time with us. I'm Andy Curtis. And before the break, I asked you this week's MTN Outdoors trivia question. And it's a hard one, a damn hard one. And just in case you missed it, here it is one more time. What year was the Yellowtail Dam dedicated? Is it A, 1950, B, 1968, or C, 1955? If you think it was 1968, then ding, 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 you are 100% right. Construction of the Yellowtail Dam started in the 1960s, But the damming of the Bighorn River actually started as early as the 1900s for irrigation purposes. Groundbreaking on the dam took place in 1961, and then in 1963, the first bucket of cement was poured. It was completed in 1967 and dedicated in 1968. According to NPS.gov, as a result of the dam, flood damage has been reduced by $113 million between 1965 and 2007. And the dam is capable of producing up to 250,000 kilowatts of electricity. All right, this next story takes us back on land, or I guess more accurately, beneath it. We'll explore the Big Ice Cave with Russ Riesinger.
For this week's On the Trail report, we're in the Pryor Mountains at the Big Ice Cave. It's just a short walk to the cave from here, but I gotta tell you, the ride here, well, it's a bit of a rough one at times.
There's no quick way to get to this part of the Pryors. The road is rough, rutted in places, and you might run into a few other obstacles. But you'll also get some breathtaking views of the beauty of this ancient mountain range.
The Pryors are a very unique landscape in Montana because you can start in a red desert type terrain and then within a few steep miles end up in a subalpine meadow. Also, this area has a rich human history with indigenous people having lived here for thousands of years.
On this hot summer day, I'm on my way to check out the Big Ice Cave. It's a short walk from the small picnic area at the top of the mountain after a not-so-easy, long, bumpy ride to get here. There's a longer, more strenuous trail to the top, which I decided not to take on this 90-plus degree day. But down the stairs and inside the cave, it's pretty cool in more ways than one.
Definitely a big difference in temperature here inside the big cave. Right now, my temperature gun shows 36 degrees. Quite a contrast to how it is outside right now.
The Big Ice Cave is just one of a number of caves carved by groundwater and the limestone throughout the Pryors. Another thing you might see if you look closely at the rocks here are fossils of shelled marine animals that lived during the Mississippian period more than 300 million years ago. The U.S. Forest Service says it's seen increased interest in recreating in the Pryors since new maps were released this past spring detailing the many opportunities here.
Recreation such as hiking, horseback riding, or mountain biking have been getting more developed.
Just a few of the many things to do and see in these majestic mountains. On the trail in the Pryors, I'm Russ Riesinger, MTN News.
Absolutely hysterical, just sobbing the entire time.
That is the reaction of Tamara Ponto, who hiked along the Sulphur Springs Trail alongside her two dogs. The one you are currently looking at is Cricket, who just recovered after a recent encounter with a prairie rattlesnake.
Honestly, in all of the camping and hiking I've ever done, I've never seen a rattlesnake, so was not on my mind. Got there, walked maybe 100 feet down the trail and saw two snakes in the path and decided not to continue. Turned around and right at the edge of the parking lot heard Cricket yelp. Didn't see anything in her paws, just saw a couple little blood spots on her leg and immediately panicked. Kind of her ankle, kind of like right in there. And then this is shaved because that's where they did like the IVs. The swelling and limping was still pretty bad the first day that I had her. I mean, she's been on antibiotics and a couple of painkillers. She's got a few more days of those, but swelling's all the way back down. She's back to normal. She's wanting to run and play again, although I have to remind her to take it easy for a few more days at least.
Now, while hiking and camping is a common thing to do in the summer, I got the chance to head to Buffalo Jump State Park just outside of Great Falls, a place where rattlesnakes is no stranger to. Recreation Manager Clark Carlson Thompson explained how common one can find rattlesnakes when hiking along the trail.
So if we're out on the trails, it can happen, sometimes you get reports multiple times a day. Sometimes we get days where we don't get any. A lot of it is just kind of keeping your ears open and your eyes open as you're hiking.
Interestingly, one was captured by the time of this interview. While the prairie rattlesnake might not appear aggressive, it is one that should alarm anyone that crosses its way.
Yeah. Okay, Cricket, play with you.
While Tamara feels fortunate given her situation, the memories of what occurred leave her second guessing.
never encountered a rattlesnake before. I kind of got complacent and didn't actually consider the genuine risk of running into them, so now I'm going to be hyper aware for a while. I used to just kind of toss the dogs in the car after work and go find somewhere. I think now I'm going to put a lot more thought and planning into where I go beforehand.
Now, when asking for safety advice, they kept it pretty simple and said just to be snake aware. In other words, simply watch out for your own surroundings. But at the same time, they also noted to not let this deter you from going out and enjoying the outdoors. In Great Falls, Cade Mentor, MTN News.
We now return to MTN Outdoors.
Hey, welcome back everybody to this week's episode of MTN Outdoors. Thanks for sticking around with us. I'm Andy Curtis. Now, sometimes the best kind of help is the only kind of help that Mother Nature provides. MTN's Paul Sanchez shows us how our fighting men and women are getting the help they need out here on the water.
The Montana Warriors on the Water held its annual fishing trip for veterans here at Fort Peck Lake. 14 veterans were selected from around the U.S. to take part in this amazing fishing adventure.
So they invite us out here to Montana to do a week-long fishing expedition with a bunch of veterans. They're pairing us up with boat captains that are out here pretty much like pros and putting us on some fish.
You know, it's hard. I know a lot of people, even myself, that will tell you it's not for me, it's too many people, things like that. And a lot of them come here feeling that way. It's, last year, great group of guys, everybody just kind of gets back into it. Everybody kind of hangs out, and then by the time you're done with this, come Sunday morning when it's time to say goodbye, it's just a sad day. You're losing, not losing. You're saying, bon voyage to some family that you've created now. A lot of these people we stay in touch with. I'm in touch with some of the guys from last year still, and on the hunt, it's a whole nother brotherhood kind of deal you can do, and a lot of these guys come out of this loving it, and they come back. A couple of our board of directors are guys that were out here on the trip, and then to include myself, and then the other guys that are in the advisory board, same thing. Jason from the advisory board, he was out here last year on a fishing trip. That's how I met him, and here he is volunteering his time. Drove, I don't remember exactly where, Ohio. He lives in Ohio. Drove from Ohio to volunteer his time and come out here, and because it matters that much. That's how great this organization really is.
If it wasn't for the community here, we couldn't do half what we do. And it's just odd. And even the vets, by day 3, they're like, this is amazing. We don't get how just random people, but hey, come on my boat, here's my fishing pole. And they just the hospitality that is given to the vets is just, they haven't seen it, and it's pretty awesome.
Not only did these veterans learn how to fish for walleye and northern pike, it was time to meet other veterans who understand the hardships we face after returning home from deployments.
It means the world to be able to come out and meet 13 other fellow vets and sit down, talk, and share stories. It's kind of hard when you leave the military and go to the civilian world. There's no sense of purpose. So meeting these guys and sharing stories, the struggles of how we all transitioned, kind of, makes you feel better that you're not the only one that's struggling. Others struggle. And with us all talking how we made it work, I feel we help each other.
These veterans are from all branches of service and come from different backgrounds. Being around other veterans helped them realize that they're not alone. These men bonded together and created lifelong memories and friends.
I've met 14 friends that are veterans, and I've met so many other of the staff that we're family now, Can't get rid of that. And, when somebody is willing to take you out of your element to decompress you, it leaves a heartwarming feeling, and that's something you can't really get rid of.
This week has, life piles up. You got job and bills and family and just responsibilities. But this week has, so far, has just helped me clear my mind. And it's very refreshing to hang out with other veterans and just be able to talk stories from what we did as a brotherhood in the military, and I'm so relaxed right now. I'm in a happy place. So it's something I really needed to get my mind right.
You know, thank to everybody that helped support this from the bottom up. You know, whether you're on the board of directors, we're all still volunteers, but all the volunteers from the kitchen, from the donors that we have that make this happen. This is all donation based. You know, so to everybody that helps with their time, effort, energy, money, even everything that they do, is just from the bottom of my heart. I thank them all, because it wouldn't be here without everybody.
You don't realize what people are dealing with and struggling with, and you know, at the end of the trip, you find out what this did for them. And when, in the case of some of the guys, when their wife contacts you back and said, "This is the first time my husband has smiled. You guys made a difference for our family." That means a lot. And so we know what we're doing is working. There's a lot of organizations out there. They all offer so many great things for our veterans. And we try to help those that maybe haven't been on a trip. Word of mouth from some of the people where this trip has touched their lives. They share the word, they know what this trip offers and maybe make that fit. And so they can come out here and maybe feel like, you know, they're loved and we're glad they're here and we love them all. So.
The Montana Warriors on the Water is a very special organization that is helping not only veterans, but a community and a way of life. I personally have not seen so much selfless service from an organization as they continue to support our veterans. Here at Fort Peck Lake, I'm Paul Sanchez for MTN News.
All right, everybody, that should just about do it for us here this week at MTN Outdoors. Thank you for spending some time with me. And remember, keep those photos coming to andy.curtis@ktvh.com of you outside enjoying all the great things that the great state of Montana has to offer. Just drop me a picture to that email and you could see yourself at the end of a future episode. Just like these folks, it's time for our MTN Outdoors brag board. And for our first pick, this one was sent in by Amber and taken by her husband Earl. They snapped this photo at the Vigilante campground in a nest that they told me was just a few feet above the ground. Now, we don't know exactly what types of birds these are, so if you do have an idea, please send me an email. But we do know for sure that this is an awesome photo. Thanks, guys, and please send some more my way. All right, thanks again, everybody, and until next week, stay safe, stay dry, and I'll see you out there.